Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, your one-stop shop for exploring the connections between fitness, health, and overall well-being. Join us as we dive deep into all aspects of a balanced and vibrant life, from pushing your limits in the gym to finding peace of mind outside of it. Whether you're a seasoned athlete or just starting your journey, you are in the right place to discover the knowledge and insight to perfect your fitness life.
Analemma is a groundbreaking tool that transforms regular tap water into its full spectrum coherent state. This water has extraordinary benefits to all biological systems, humans, animals, and plants. The company's team of scientists has been conducting research on the effects of Analemma water for more than a decade, and Mario is here with me today to tell us all about it. Welcome, Mario. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's my pleasure to be here. And it's always a pleasure for me to tell the story of this water, because I truly feel that it has a potential to change the world in so many ways. So I'm super thrilled to be here. Thank you.
And I'm thrilled to learn more about it. So let's dive right in. Let's break down the concept of structured water, if that's where you would like to begin the story.
Yeah, cool. So this whole research, actually, you said it correctly, like 15 years ago it started. And we actually picked up a whole lab from a famous German scientist, Dr. Fritz Albert Popp. He actually developed this technology, a biophoton technology that can capture biophotons. So every living thing exudes these tiny particles of light. And you need very sophisticated technology that can capture every single biophoton. So the more light or more biophotons a biological system exudes, more vitality it has. So our early research was actually in plants. So we had a 1 acre greenhouse where we did all kinds of research, all kinds of experiments. And we realized when you change the water, biophoton emissions of plants grow, they rise dramatically. So the vitality of biological systems really respond extraordinarily well to water. That's where we realized, okay, there is something biologically remarkable here. When we were playing with water, we realized, our research proved, that water currently on this planet exists in what we call a chaotic state. What does that actually mean? It's still H2O, but H2O molecules, they're actually moving randomly. They're crashing into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of this. This chaos actually has a profound effect on our biology, on our health and wellness, even though we're completely unaware. So water can exist in a harmonic state. We found a way to bring harmony into that chaos. When we use Analemma, what happens is that those same H2O molecules, chaotic H2O molecules, they start to link together and start to move in harmony. So we realize that there are these coherent fields that start to work together. Like the whole water becomes like the one unit, so to speak. It moves in unison. Through this unique process, water becomes alive. It becomes empowered, and it can do so much for our health and wellness. I always kind of like to tell this story just to kind of try to explain to people the concept. For instance, if you take a 5-watt light bulb, it will give you some light. But if you take 5-watt laser, which is a coherent form of light, it can actually drill a hole through your table. So it's the same power, but more focused expression, let's call it that way. So the same thing is with water. When water enters into this very, very special coherent state, its true power to affect biology is being unleashed. And all of our research clearly proved this, and it's very, very, very repeatable. We did double-blind placebo-controlled studies. Many we're going to go into that on humans to prove this. We did studies on animals. We did studies on plants. We're actually going to publish those studies in peer-reviewed magazines. So it's really an extraordinary new science that
Sure.
is really proving that there is something amazing actually happening here.
And so when you're talking about the water chaos before, are we referencing like the disassociation of water where it's part in H2O and part in molecules of hydrogen and oxygen, and it's forever at equilibrium where it's
No,
separating? And okay.
No, it's still H2O. So we are talking about H2O molecules, but how they are behaving to one another. This is what we're talking about. Colloquially speaking, H2O molecules join hands. They form this very special liquid crystalline structure. So it's not moving chaotically. They bind
Oh, I
together.
was talking before using the Analemma.
Before it's
Right,
still
it's
H2O, man.
chaotic,
But
right?
H2O molecules are just moving all over the place.
Okay. Okay. So and the Analemma helps it become linked together and make
Yes.
that okay.
Yes. When you use the Analemma, what happens is that those same H2O molecules, they link together and they form it enters a liquid crystalline state. So it becomes one, so to speak. There is no chaos inside, but the
Right.
water molecules move together
Yes.
within
So
the
instead
water.
of like divided and separated, they're all working together.
Exactly.
And then the aspect of the biophotons is it found that when they're linked together, it's holding on to more light essentially.
It's actually, the story goes even deeper.
Okay.
You realize this is some interesting thing. What most people don't realize. This now we're actually entering human biology.
Yeah.
People understand that we are 70% water in mass, and that is actually huge when you look at it.
Right.
But we are 99% water in molecules.
Right.
We only have 1% of heavy molecules. All of the rest, 99% of all of our molecules are actually very light water molecules. If you can imagine, we are more water than the ocean. Ocean has 96.5% water molecules. The rest are salts and other things. So we are more water than the ocean, if you can
Yeah.
imagine. And that off the bat tells you there is something we're missing here. We're basically very clever H2O.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're water walking around. So
Right.
that tells you there is something very important, logically speaking, about water.
Interesting. So the molecular difference between a glass of water that comes out of the tap and a glass of structured water is going to be that the H2O molecules have created a linkage, a bond together.
Yes. So it's the
Okay.
same H2O molecules, but how the molecules are bound together, what they're actually forming.
Mm-hmm.
They form a liquid crystalline structure. And when water enters into this particular state,
Yep.
that's true power. We actually truly believe that this is how nature intended water to be. And back in the day, when you had streams of water and creeks and whatever, you have this left and right vortexes, which kept water in this very particular structure. But nowadays, due to EMFs, due to various other things, toxins, whatever, we realize that it's very hard to find water in that particular state. And
that was
there
going to be
is.
my next question is
Yes.
there any place in nature that it has been found?
Yes.
Okay.
You really have to go remote, kind of away from any civilization.
Yeah. Right.
But when you take the water out, this is the thing. In a very short period of time, water goes back to chaos. So if you drink it then and there, you are going to get as nature intended. But as soon as you take it out and you put it in a bottle and you kind of go away, after a while, that water will go back to chaos, which is really interesting. How that
is
happens.
there any way to say that you were out in nature? Is there any way to identify or test the water to tell if it's structured?
We have equipment that does that, but it's otherwise for a regular person to kind of carry
Not
something with
given.
them in intestine, it will be very, very, very hard. But
Okay.
this is also very interesting. We proved through various method that is usually used. We have near infrared, ultraviolet visual spectroscopy that you kind of you definitely prove that the water itself is changed. So it's actually very hard. We use a special technology that can definitively prove this, and we actually did all the studies to prove that the water changes. We used the near infrared, ultraviolet visual spectroscopy, and as I mentioned, biophoton emissions. But our whole thing was not to kind of prove that the water changes. I mean,
Okay.
that's a given. But our whole thing was to prove the effect of this water on biological systems, because this is where the juice is, so to speak. What kind of
Right.
effect does this water have on people, on plants, on animals, and on the environment? This is where most of our research actually went. And we had amazing results with it.
Yeah, let's dive into that. I want to hear about the effects that it has. I mean, you talked about the plants, how it had a better yield for the plants, but let's talk about humans.
We realized in our research that water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment.
Okay.
Always. When we realized this, our whole quest was to create the most positive, dominant frequency water there is. Because if we would expose any other water to it, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, all the water would become.
Interesting.
So this is actually, and the whole research actually went there. And after years, we created what we call now the mother water.
Hmm.
So the water that is actually in this very particular state. So what we did, we actually put mother water inside a crystal vial, and we just put a holder up there.
Mhm.
So the crystal vial has two purposes. One, of course, to create a barrier between the mother water and the rest of the water. But more importantly, crystal serves as a superconductor. So it
Mm.
allows the frequency of the mother water to be spread all over wherever you're using it. So as I mentioned, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, when you take the most dominant frequency and you take the wand and you start swirling within your cup of the water, any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water starts to mimic its exact structure. So within 30 seconds of swirling the analemma through the cup, you in effect get a glass of mother water. And when you drink that, then you actually have the effect. Why have I actually said this? Because we're going to jump in the first human study that we did. So
Yeah.
since this water is what we call an electromagnetic phenomenon, because it has very different frequency, we wanted to see, like we were thinking, what's the most electromagnetic part of human biology? Something that we can very definitively measure. It's our brainwaves. It's very measurable, and it's electromagnetic in nature. So what we did a double-blind study, and it's a golden standard study because we used genetically identical twins.
Interesting.
So the doctor administering the water didn't know which water was which. Twins didn't know which water was which. And we monitored their brainwaves through QEEG. So, and this is really fascinating. Almost as soon as the twin that took a sip of Analemma water, so we're not talking about kind of long time. It was almost instant. As the twin that took a sip of Analemma water, there was an instant better connection between the right and the left hemisphere of the brain, an instant harmonizing effect on the brainwaves. While the other twin, they took a sip or took a drink of regular water, experienced nothing. Now, that was a really powerful and irrefutable evidence that something really remarkable happens when a human drinks this water. We then repeated the experiment 3 weeks later, and it was again double blind, and we gave Analemma water to the other twin. And lo and behold, because these individuals are genetically identical, we saw exactly the same phenomenon as with the first twin, while the first twin now actually experienced nothing because he took a drink of regular water.
Interesting.
So the first effect this water has is electromagnetic part of us, which is kind of logical since 99% of our molecules are water, and water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. When you take in the most dominant positive frequency water there is,
all the other water in our body adapts to it.
Instantly. And this is very measurable. This is very, very, very measurable. And we did it many times, actually. So we know that it very definitively works. So this was actually the first study that we did, the first human study that we did, that proved that something remarkable happens there.
So the crystal in the wand, is that what is holding the structured water together? Like, is that what's preventing the water in the vial from separating?
No. A crystal serves just as a superconductor and to create the barrier between the mother water, which is inside, and the rest of the water through which you're swirling.
Just helps spread the water. Sorry.
That's it.
Helps create.
And since crystal as, I'm not going to say an element, as a material is a superconductor, it allows the frequency of the mother water to be transmitted without any loss.
Okay.
That's it. That's why it's so elegant and simple to use. And you're actually getting very, 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 very repeatable results with it. So maybe we can jump immediately on the second human study that we did. Well, since I mentioned that all of our early on research was in biophotons, and we proved that just by watering, for instance, tomatoes with Analemma water, those tomatoes actually exude between 60 and 200% more light than tomatoes that would water with regular water. So they have extraordinarily more vitality, energy. And we were kind of thinking how to measure, how to do the experiment on people, because it's very hard to measure biophoton emissions with people. And we came to, there is a way to measure energy in humans. ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the primary energy currency of the cell, which is directly responsible for powering the majority of cellular processes in our body, including muscle contraction, nerve impulse transmission, biochemical reactions. Every heartbeat, every breath depends on ATP.
Right.
And this is very measurable. We actually employed luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes light production in bioluminescent organisms. And due to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can very accurately measure ATP levels in humans. So we did a double-blind, placebo-controlled study where it's actually going to be published, where we measured ATP levels in humans. So we did a snapshot of ATP levels in participants of the study. So participants then drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in the world. So they didn't change their exercise regime, they didn't change their diets. The only thing that changed in their life was drinking Analemma water. And after 2 months, we did another snapshot of ATP levels to see whether something changed. And we had 20% rise in overall mitochondrial energy of the body over the placebo. When you count in the placebo, that's almost 1/3 of entire energy of the body increased just by drinking the water. And we're not talking about Red Bull energy here. We're talking about actual energy. And you know what the implications of this are really powerful, because scientists now agree that the key cause of cellular aging is the decline in mitochondrial function. And we prove definitively that mitochondrial function increases more than significantly just by drinking the water.
Yeah, interesting.
And one other interesting thing as well is, most people aren't aware, but the biggest spender of ATP is our brain. For one neuron to send an impulse to a neighboring cell, it needs to hydrolyze over 1 billion ATP molecules. And there are billions of neurons. 25% of all of our energy expenditure goes on brain.
For a brain.
And people with high ATP levels actually have high cognitive performance. So this is another benefit of drinking this water.
Yeah. It's almost like the structured water is acting as like a convex mirror to absorb photons and proper light, and the non-structured water is like a broken mirror, just all shattered and not being efficient at absorbing the light properly and transferring that over to the host. Yeah, it's really fascinating, and I thank you for diving into the studies. That really does help us see the true effects of this structured water. So, talk to me a little bit about so say the wand, right? When do I need to be worried that the water in the wand has lapsed its time of staying structured?
This is a very interesting question, and thank you for asking. This is where Analemma water shines. To be honest, we all in Analemma, we feel that we are serving this water, not the other way around. When you
Yeah,
see the effect it has on any biological system,
yeah,
you kind of just want to do its justice, so to speak.
right.
Why am I saying this? Because we tested all kinds of, there are some form of structured water. The people either use vortexes or they use magnets. They're using various ways. And the water does change. But we tested basically almost all of them. And the water stays in the coherent state or structured state, we would call, between a couple of minutes and day and a half. Then the water molecules break and the water goes back to
Right.
chaos.
Yeah.
With Analemma, it actually doesn't happen.
Interesting.
We
Interesting.
tested it now 6 consecutive years after just one treatment. Water never left its state of coherence. That's why it's so
Wow.
special. And the
Yeah.
effect of, for instance, on plants or whatever we did it, it's really, really, really consistent. And not only that, it's actually progressive. I can mention our tomato studies. When we were doing, when we grow the tomato with an Analemma water, then we took the seeds out, we planted it, again, we grew tomato, and we replanted 3 times. After 3 times, after 3 generations of watering tomatoes with an Analemma water, you almost don't need to use no pesticides.
Interesting.
The plant becomes so resilient that it kind of really can push about anything that kind of goes its way. And we again proved this with another. This is the study that we did very recently that it's going to be published in Tier 1 peer-reviewed scientific magazine, where we proved what we did. We took basil plants and we watered some with regular water, some with Analemma water, and then we created a short-term drought to create a power stressor.
Right.
Then we allowed the plants to recover and we monitored everything that was happening in the plants on a molecular level using the latest fluorescence-based technology. You get a mountain of data, what happens
Yeah.
inside the plant, how the plant is using water to cool itself when it's hot, how it's using the light in the process of photosynthesis, because photosynthesis is the way plants actually get food for themselves. And there are various markers. And in 20 different markers, we proved that if you water plant with an Analemma water, they become extraordinarily resilient to any form of stress. So
Mm.
they thrive even when you put them in a bad situation, so to speak,
Mm.
which is really going to
Right.
be important. The climate is changing all over the planet. And the situation really kind of, we're going to have floods, droughts, everything. And we need plants that are going to survive through the
That's the
whole.
extreme stress. So, did you also test like the vitamin and mineral content between the produce that was, or the tomatoes that were grown with the structured water versus tomatoes that weren't? I would assume that you would find that since you're improving the biophoton content and its ability to absorb light, that it would actually have more mineral content than say, and they would have an application because we do so much mass farming, monocrop farming in our society, and we deplete the soils of nutrients that some of the produce that we get, whether it be vegetables or fruit, kind of lacks the nutrient content and
Yes,
density that we
this is
need.
thank you for asking the question because most people aren't aware. But due to everything that you just mentioned, to the large agriculture companies, they're not resting the soil, so to speak. What happens is spinach 15 years ago had like 80% more nutrients than spinach today.
Mm,
So you have to eat much more spinach just to have the same nutrient amount in your body, which
right.
is really appalling.
Looking for personalized workout plans? Whether you prefer to train at home or hit the gym, try a 14-day free trial of the Think Fitness Life mobile app. Get customized workouts, nutrition guidance, and coaching from a qualified professional who will be in your corner every step of the way. Visit www.thinkfitnesslife.com to start your free trial today. That's www.thinkfitnesslife.com.
I have to kind of mention one other study just because you mentioned this.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really an extraordinary study that we did. We actually took completely depleted, destroyed piece of soil, the one that was killed by glyphosate in all of the chemicals that usually large agriculture companies are using. So it was completely barren. You couldn't grow anything on it. It was dead. And one part we watered with regular water, and one part we watered with Analemma water, and then we wanted to see what's going to happen with the soil. So the part that was watered with regular water, basically nothing happened. It was dead. You couldn't grow anything on it. It was basically the same as in the beginning.
Right.
But the part that was watered with Analemma water, there was a huge explosion of biodiversity of the microbiome, so much so that the bacteria, new bacteria in the soil, started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere into the soil where it belongs. Because CO2 is the fuel, actually, for plant life, for soil, for everything. But it didn't stop there. The whole nitrogen cycle got improved dramatically. Total nitrogen in soil got improved dramatically to a point where within only 2 months, that piece of soil was revitalized to a level that you can grow food on it again. And there is one other very important element. Usually when the rain falls, all of the minerals and nutrients you mentioned go to the deeper layer of the soil. But with Analemma water, when you water soil with Analemma water, there is a huge retainment of those nutrients and minerals in the top layer of the soil where the plant can actually use it. So then it fills the produce, the fruits and veggies with nutrients, with minerals, with everything. So when you grow food with Analemma water, you're getting really powerfully kind of nutrient-packed food that nature intended us to have.
You're making it more bioavailable to its own minerals and vitamins. So does the Analemma water that you're watering on the ground have the same effect as the wand in the glass of water? If it then does rainfall with chaotic water, will the Analemma water that's in the soil start to have the same effect on that rainwater? Will it structure it?
This is the thing, as I mentioned, water always picks up the most dominant frequency of the environment.
It will pick up that dominance.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's why the whole thing. But we always say, kind of use it, reuse it. Don't kind of water it once and then leave it to the rain to fall. Kind of when you have just
kind of want to reapply.
Yes, and then you're just 100% sure that you're getting the very best result possible with it.
Because you're just diluting the solution by taking your gallon of Analemma water and throwing it on the whole earth, right? And dealing with all the chaotic water that it then has to adhere to. So back to the one thing that I thought of the question, back to the produce that was replanted through, years and years down the line. Are you guys postulating that the Analemma water, the structured water, affects the epigenetics, like the gene expression of that plant so that its offspring actually is stronger and has that same effect from the structured water of its host, of its parent?
We definitely believe it. We haven't done studies
to show that, but that's what you guys are thinking.
Show that, but definitely all of the effects, everything show that very, very, very accurately. But again, we always like to stick to hardcore science. If we haven't actually done the study on it, we cannot claim it definitively. But everything shows it that it behaves exactly that. There is also one other thing that I want to mention, which is really extraordinary. Early on in our research, it really kind of blew our mind. So it's not just in the effect of vitality, so to speak. Early on, we actually did tests on seeds. Seed is this tiny, tiny particle of life, from plant or whatever. And we watered some with regular water, and we watered some same seeds with the same kind of seeds with Analemma water. And we actually measured biophoton emissions to see what's going to happen there. So the seeds that were watered with regular water, again, we didn't see nothing special. But the seeds that were watered with Analemma water, we started seeing this sinusoidal shapes of peaks and valleys of biophoton emissions. It's like it was suddenly when you start watering the seed with Analemma water, it started like it's breathing light, so to speak, in large periods of time. And it was like, what was happening there? We actually connected to other scientists because we couldn't figure out in the beginning. And after a while, we made a connection. We realized that it started to follow the tides. So we realized that Analemma water connected this tiny, tiny particle of life to the circadian rhythm of nature.
Yeah.
So it connected
Calibrating.
it.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing when you look at it, because we didn't see anything else happening like it with all of the other research that we did. So this tiny particle of life got connected to its larger electromagnetic environment. It started to flow with it. It started to move with it, so to speak. And the same thing actually happens with humans. That's why we have such profound effects when people start drinking the water. Their life starts changing in really interesting ways. They, by themselves, people start to change their life habits. They start to really, there are many, we're getting thousands and thousands of letters from people all over the planet, how this water is changing their lives. So we're not just talking about health results, energy results, and many others. Your whole life kind of changes. That's why we sometimes call this water conscious water. It makes you not only connected to yourself. So it's important that you are connected within you so that everything is kind of interconnected. But it goes one step further. It connects you to your larger environment. You kind of become part. We are all part of the planet, so to speak, in so many ways, but we feel or perceive that we're disconnected. No, we're actually a part of a larger ecosystem electromagnetically. And when you drink water, you just become a part of that, so to speak. So it really has a profound effect.
Profound effects. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense because of the way we were talking about it before. And this is the way I kind of dumb it down for myself and hopefully help any confused listener. But, you take the chaotic, broken mirror concept of water where it's not really efficient with light. You created structure, you create the structured water where it's able to be more, have more light absorption, have more biophoton density. And then you talk about the calibration of our circadian rhythm, also known as our suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is all linked and based off of light. So it's like the water gives us this ability to tap into the sun, so to speak, right? That light force, that strong light force, which then is synchronizing us with the rest of the universe. So that is very interesting. And that's how I kind of see it.
You said this. I love it. It's so poetic and actually very true. Very true. I love that you said it. I don't know if you're aware, but what actually Analemma stands for? It's the power symbol of the sun. You realize that water changes electromagnetically due to to the position of the Earth towards the sun. If you would take the photo of the sun from the same spot of the Earth for 365 days, you would actually get this infinity sign on the sky. So there is an extraordinary connection between the sun and the light and water. So you actually really kind of made a connection and put a bow tie on it. Thank you so much. I love your definition.
You said it in the beginning too, like light is life, and it really is. I mean, without the sun, we don't exist. The earth doesn't exist. Plants don't exist.
100%.
So to be able to kind of tap into that, I guess we could say, schedule of the sun on a molecular level, and to notice all the benefits that come about, aside from just the ATP benefits, aside from just the mitochondrial benefits, because we're talking about this superchiasmatic nucleus having all of the other clocks of the systems and metabolism and hormone usage in our body stem from that clock. And if we can link it up to the host clock, essentially, then every other system is just going to be that much more efficient.
Exactly. It connects you to yourself, and it connects you to the larger relevant environment, and you flow with it, not separate from it, because
Yeah.
you are then connected to the true source of energy. And this is what we clearly proved. And there's other thing which I also want to mention.
Yeah.
Science has now made a connection with the state of our microbiome to basically any area of human health. We would say that water is the most fundamental level of our existence. The next one, we would say that it's microbiome, and in the same kind of area, we would put mitochondrial health as the next level of our existence. Mitochondrial health we talked about, we proved it, that it actually kind of more than significantly improves the whole mitochondrial health. But microbiome, we actually did double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we measured dysbiosis index of the microbiome. So dysbiosis index actually describes the degree of deviation within the microbiome, taking into account all the different bacterial phyla and species and their weighing factor. To cut the long story short, it was double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we proved that just by drinking the water, the state of your microbiome improves. And why does this have a profound effect on our overall biology? In the
Because
last,
most of our mitochondria is localized to our gut.
exactly, and if we like to think of ourselves as a single species, nothing could be further from the truth. We're living in symbiosis with trillions of these microorganisms, and not only that, people mostly don't know, but there are up to 300 times more microbial genes in our body than human genes.
Right.
So this equilibrium is extraordinarily important, and science has now pinpointed the exact pathway by which any bacterial species has an effect on any particular area of our health. So we're not talking about digestive health. We're talking about immune health. We're talking about cardiovascular health. We're talking about neurological health. Basically, any area of your health is connected to the state of your microbiome. I always also like to, people usually talk about serotonin and about mood enhancement and how important serotonin is. 95% of serotonin is actually created in our gut. And then it's being delivered through the gut-brain axis to your brain. So the state of your microbiome influences how you perceive yourself, how you perceive others, like in the state of your mood.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I'm a huge geek on the microbiome because there is really a powerful effect on overall biology through the state of our microbiome. And we proved that just by drinking the water, the state of your microbiome improves.
And I'm such a nerd at the way that mood and paradigm shapes our thinking, because I'm a firm believer that with our thoughts, we create the world. So to your point, I love all this stuff. I think it's a big, strong connection. So tell us about where we can find Analemma water.
So anybody can go to coherent-water.com. So coherent-water.com. And I always invite people, come to our newsletter because we're constantly doing new studies. If you just want to follow our work, you can kind of get it there. And because we're really going in we haven't touched all of the things in the podcast now. They're really exciting stuff that we're doing many areas. I'm telling you, we barely scratched the surface of YouTube. So
let's actually, I do want to actually ask you,
the whole project. Mm-hmm.
I do want to actually ask you, we'll get back to that in a second, but I did want to actually ask you too, like what are some of the future studies we can look forward to that you guys are, if you can divulge?
Yeah, I can definitely at least talk about a little bit what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
So we're doing agriculture studies, and it's going to be really huge because we really want to prove that when you grow food with this water, it's exponentially better in any way you can imagine. Both the nutrient density, shelf life, if you actually use this water to grow food, you definitely want to eat that food because all of this energy, all this vitality, all this nutrient density, again, enters your
Or
cells.
life. Yeah.
Yes. And then everything kind of goes from there. So human studies that we're doing, we're really taking a deep dive into the microbiome. What we're actually doing, we're actually doing the entire DNA sequencing of an entire microbiome. Since I
wow.
mentioned that science has now pinpointed the exact pathway by which any species of bacteria has an effect on certain area of health, we're going to have the whole map. So we're mapping out
Wow.
everything, what happens to every particular species. So this is hugely exciting. The other thing that we're doing, there is a huge correlation between ATP and NAD levels.
Which is a
And there is a
precursor to ATP.
exactly. So
Yeah.
we're going to now do a study. Actually, we're just about to start the study to also measure NAD levels, how NAD levels rise when you drink this water. So there's going to be another thing that we are looking into. So many, many, many things on the horizon. Also, I haven't mentioned the study that we are actually doing when we created a whole house system. Then you don't have to swirl. You just install it in the piping system of your
Oh,
house.
wow. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
wherever you open a faucet, you're actually getting coherent water. Why is this interesting? We were kind of
Convenient.
what?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Convenience.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Make it
yes.
easy to
There
get
is,
the water.
but there is other element to it which we're really excited about because we were kind of hypothesizing and thinking, what would happen if people would actually take a in Analemma water? Because
Interesting.
99% of our molecules of water, what will happen if you actually lay down for half an hour in this water? And we connected to Hydrate Spa, Dr. Greg Lane and my good friend David Perez. And they have this equipment, they measure vitals before and after. And people would just come in, we're now doing 100 people study, where they're just laying down in Analemma water for half an hour. And we measure before and after. And we were measuring cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, but more
Wow.
importantly, heart rate variability.
Yes.
And every single person in the study experienced various improvements in cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, and heart rate variability. The smallest increase in heart rate variability that we saw was 30%.
Wow.
This is the
Yeah.
smallest. So this
Yeah.
was kind of low bar of the whole thing. So we're super excited about that whole research. We're planning to do research on athletes as well to see how and if athletic performance increases, not just when you drink the water, but when you take a bath in the water.
Well, HRV is right there. I mean, with performance
Yes,
and longevity to be able to tell if
everything.
someone's going to be readily available to perform, and as well as HRV being a measurable piece to look at longevity. So that's
Exactly.
really fascinating, and I'm
Yeah.
excited to see how those studies come out.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's not a dull moment. Really,
Yes,
there are too many things that are kind of, and since
you
this
guys are
isn't,
absolutely pioneers in this area, and you guys are at the forefront. That's very exciting.
I mean, we're really, I'm telling you, I'm super excited to be a part of this
Yeah,
because it's really just like you mentioned, it's a frontier. So
yeah,
it's like an adventure. You just go anywhere, and there are so many things to go. So, but we can only
yeah.
do so much studies at the time.
Right,
So
right.
we're kind of moving and doing many things at the same time. That's why I say
Yeah.
to people, come to our newsletter. We're going to we're telling the story about everything that we're doing constantly there. So you can follow
Okay.
our work.
And that newsletter will be at coherent-water.com.
.com.
Correct?
Yeah, that's the place to go. And you can actually purchase the product if you want. You
Okay.
can follow our research and everything. And
And your
you
team
get in
was
touch with what we're doing. Mhm.
and your team was very kind to provide us with a discount code for any listener who wants 10% off of a wand. We don't Think Fitness Life doesn't make any money from this. This was just out of the kindness of their own hearts to promote their product and give a little discount to our listeners. TFL10 is the promo code that they gave us. We'll include this stuff in the show notes for your listeners. The last things I do like to ask people are, what's your favorite thing to do for exercise? And then what's your favorite quote?
Oh, well, this is really powerful question. Well, for exercise, I do more than several things. I play tennis, I play table tennis, and I play golf. So
Love
this
it.
is the three things that I'm doing like really regularly, and I love it.
You're great at rotation
Yes,
with the
yes.
with the ball and
Somehow
rotating
it
with
happens that
golfing.
way. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. I love
Nice.
sports and be able to live without it. I just love it, love it, love it.
Excellent. Excellent.
And the favorite quote. Now that's a really big one. Give me a second because there are many
Yeah.
that I actually kind of
I'll let you
touch
think
my.
about it. And I want to just kind of say something for a second. Like it just, when something is so profound like this and has such strong evidence, I like to look at kind of like the lesson behind it. And to me, after this episode today, it shows me the power of structure, right? I mean, and you can personify that any way you will, but I look at just the way that human beings develop. You can't just be laissez-faire with a baby, with a child, with a toddler, with a toddler to a teenager. They'll just, who knows what they'll end up in, right? The chaos that they'll end up in, but it needs structure to anchor them to build this beautiful life for themselves. So that's the lesson I take away from this is we need structure in our lives and on a cellular level and in our water.
I agree with you 100%. This is what I love about how coherent water is teaching us how to live. Because we have this chaotic water with H2O molecules are crashing into each other like we are on the planet. But colloquially speaking, they join hands, the same H2O molecules, and true power of water is then being unleashed. If we will join hands
Together, right?
together,
Right.
that's the whole thing. We
We
don't crash into
stronger
each other, but
together.
we move in unity. Then the whole experience of life on this planet would change in one generation. I'm a huge believer in this. And maybe I can share that quote. I love that it just came to me. I love the book Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh.
Okay.
And God actually mentioned there, the beauty and the fragrance of your flowering shall fill the land, and you shall yet take your place in the garden of gods. This
I
is our
love it.
future. This is the
Yes.
future of humanity. We, even though it looks kind of bad, but I believe that this is just a passage. We're coming to a true golden age
Absolutely.
of everything beautiful that you can imagine. So I believe that we are at the very verge of incredible and beautiful shift that is going to conquer everything and everybody. And we will become aware that we are part of this incredible community and that we live on the most beautiful planet in the whole galaxy that we are on. And when we realize that, we are not going to be able but to be in awe of everyone, everything in ourselves included.
I love it. I love it. And I can't wait till Analemma is a household product and I can get it installed into my, under my sink and it can just come out of my faucet.
This is the goal, brother. This is the goal.
Yeah.
And actually, our whole thing is that's why we're investing so much into the science, because we want to bring it to the governmental level. Wouldn't it be awesome that you come to New York and you open your faucet and you actually get coherent water there?
Yeah. Yeah. And it could be countrywide, nationwide. That'd be wonderful.
Yes.
Well, Mario, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for blessing us with all this information, diving into the science, and we look forward to hearing more of the science coming out.
Thank you so much. It was my true pleasure to be here. It's always a beautiful thing for me to tell the story about this. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. So to give the information out so everybody can hear it, they can actually purchase this technology and get the benefit. That's the whole thing. That's what we're actually all about. And just as to mention this, we're really keeping the price of the product very low, so that our whole idea was to make this affordable for basically any family on the planet. And this is the thing: you buy it once, and it will last you a lifetime. And just so you know, to create the mother water, it takes 1 full year for us to create it. So it's not like, okay, we just created it, so to speak.
Right. Yeah.
But then when the water passes this 5th stage, it never goes back to chaos. Then it becomes what we call the mother water. And you take it once and it will last you a lifetime. It's a jewel. So if you drop it, it will break. So take care of it.
It is fragile, right?
If you take care of it, it will last you a lifetime.
And you only have to swirl it for like a minute, right? I think 60
Depending on
seconds,
it's
the size
depending
of
on the
the,
size. So if
right.
for a cup, it's like 25 seconds. But the more what I do, I have 2 liter pitcher, and then I make it coherent, and then I use it throughout the day.
Yeah. 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 Excellent. Excellent. Well, yeah, I have my wand. I've been trying it here for last week, and I'll keep doing it because I love all the benefits that we were talking about today. So thank you so much again, Mario. It was a pleasure having you on, and have a good rest
Pleasure
of your
was
day.
all mine. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for having me.